For staying with us now. Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, has reiterated that the presidency will not reintroduce fuel subsidy, despite widespread concerns over the rising cost of living following its removal. He made this known earlier in the week in Paris, France, during a meeting between President Bola Tinubu and some global investors. Mr. Oyedele maintained that subsidies previously caused economic distortions, adding that petrol pricing would not be regulated as the government has confidence in market forces to determine prices. Earlier at that meeting, the president told investors that Nigeria has achieved improved foreign exchange stability following the removal of the burden of fuel subsidy. Well, let's bring in Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, who's the CEO of UHY Professional Services and the former president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. It's good to have you on Business Nigeria this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Tolu. Thank you.
Yes, it's really good to see you. I think I should start with your reaction to what Mr. Oyedele said. Considering the fact that everyone has been talking about the hike in the price of food, price of fuel, living standards and all of that. And he's saying no going back with regards to fuel subsidy. It causes distortion, will allow market forces take charge. What do you make of that, considering the situation we face now, the Middle Eastern crisis, of course?
I think it's just a statement of the reality of the structure of the economy as it is today. At the time we had fuel subsidy, we didn't have this kind of economy. And even if fuel subsidy was justified by certain reasons, a lot of those reasons are no more here, because we are now, in fact, producing those fuels, all the fuels that we were subsidizing, we were already producing them. So the conversation is around how do we deal with the aftermath of the decision? How do we deal with the hardship resulting from the inflation we are seeing? How do we fast track the values from the removal of the subsidy? For example, how fast are we doing the CNG program? How fast are we bringing renewable energies into the energy mix? And how fast are we creating opportunities for small and medium enterprises to absorb the large number of unemployed people? These are the conversations that are critical now. The structure of the economy is such that trying to go back to subsidies is like building another animal, not the whole subsidy. We have to be a different type of subsidy. And it's still cannot be sustainable. What is sustainable is addressing the issues that we have now, improving infrastructures, creating a lot of opportunities for job creation at the small and medium enterprise level, addressing specific needs, the people at the last bottom, the very bottom of the pyramid. How do we support them? These are the conversations we should not just have, but take actions on, so that we reduce the effect of what we are seeing now on the most vulnerable, the very lowest income levels of Nigerian society.
You know, when we talk about interventions, I've spoken to analysts, and the argument is we should have targeted interventions, clear-cut policy targeted interventions, not just thrown away and we just people could take advantage of it again, like what used to happen those days of the kind of subsidy we used to run as a country. So if we are now talking about targeted interventions, let's be specific. How do you think government at this time can reach these small businesses, the man on the street, and all of that? What are those quick wins for them?
Well, the structures to reach the man in the streets, these very small businesses are there, but governments, particularly at the federal level, did not see the need to work their way through that. They set up the large federal infrastructures and process like payer money and cash handouts, and try to do it from Abuja. You have 774 local governments. You have thousands of wards and small communities. And that is where, as are trying to refer to, where the issues are, where any sort of solution have to be grounded. And in those communities, there are structures, there are cooperative societies, there are community-based organizations, CBOs, who gather people in each of the community. And there are ways of reaching them. The civil society space, the donor agencies have always been able to reach these people. The structures are there. But you need a government that has to accept that they can provide the funding, but not necessarily control the disbursement process. The real challenge is that government at all levels want to control the disbursement process, whereas there are agencies that are very good at working with the agencies that can be trusted to distribute such benefits to these people where they are. So we need to get to a situation where government understands that, okay, we'll provide the money. What's the quickest way to reach the village or a community in Burutu or Ile and Sokoto, and have sufficient confidence in channeling funds through those organizations, rather than setting a federal agency which and tries to control the distribution. It is in that distribution process you have all these leakages and corruption and little impact. And in any case, there is no way you can have an impact on 200 million people in thousands of communities in Nigeria from Abuja. The first thing is find the structure that reaches everyone, and then find how you channel the money in the most efficient, corruption-free process. You now have a lot of donor agencies that are now saying they are not going to work with government agencies. They want to work with actual organizations in communities, because they know that the money will get to those people. So that is what is missing, the insistence by government, both federal and state, and in some cases local government, deciding that they must control the process. But in any community, you can actually identify community groups. We have traditional community groups. Ajo, for example, reaches everyone. It's not complicated. They know how to organize themselves. The cooperative societies are there. They know how to organize themselves. And it's easy to give money to a cooperative and to say, this is for your members. And they have the discipline to handle funding.
Indeed, Claire. Great stuff. Now, we see that, of course, we would agree that there's a bit of stability with regards to the currency and also the exchange rate, that disparity that used to exist. You will agree with me that is a bit predictable at this time. And I think that is why government is still trying to woo investors. I'm asking you, do you think that despite the challenges, Middle Eastern war, all of this crisis hitting all countries and, of course, emerging economies like Nigeria, do you think that we still remain attractive for investment, aside from the hot money that keeps coming in?
Well, so look, if you are an investor in this world that we live in, how many countries have more than 100 million? No. Because your investment is to provide service for human beings. That is what, as Nigerians, we tend to miss. That the attraction of Nigeria as an investment destination is nationally endowed. There are not more than 10 countries in the world that have up to 200 million people. So if you are investing, you want a place where your goods can be consumed. So fundamentally, the investment attraction for Nigeria remains. But what happens from time to time, as we see, are the policies that are in play at that point. If the policies improve, investment attraction becomes much better and you have more volume of investment. If the policies are not so good, the investors will just stay on the wings. They find a way to even get into Nigeria by going to our neighbors, try and do. So you have all our neighbors importing goods that they will not consume, but are definitely ending up in Nigeria. So what we just essentially need to do is continuously improving the attractiveness in terms of our fiscal policies. This government administration have achieved substantial results in foreign exchange stability. So the whole world is saying, it looks like it's done for Nigeria now. We now have a stable foreign market environment. So you can tick that box. Now, this policy stability of what we have for other things is taken almost for granted now in international community that Nigeria is likely to keep their foreign exchange stable. And it's not just because the current government is insisting on doing it. The dynamics of the Nigerian economy has changed. Before now, 30% of our foreign exchange was spent on importing refined petroleum products. The world accepts now that we have gone past that. Now we are a net exporter of refined petroleum products to the world, which means that fundamentally our foreign exchange situation is so much improved that you can be more certain of how Nigeria can cope with any foreign exchange fluctuations in the economy. So those are in place. What we want to do is continuously addressing specific concerns in specific industries. And to a large extent, you have a government that is always trying to address that, whether it is oil, whether it is in telecommunications, whether it's even in core manufacturing. We are looking, after the tax reforms, we are now looking at how they affect manufacturing in the free trade zone, for example. So the attraction to investors in Nigeria, of Nigeria to investors. And it's not just foreign investors. Local investors, foreign investors, they are looking for the same policy reform and consistency. Because a Nigerian investor has the option to invest everywhere in Africa and beyond. So we shouldn't really be talking of FID as if it's really different from domestic investment. It is the same principles that will apply in attracting and retaining those investments. And government seems to understand that. But of course, the business community will always say you haven't done enough. We want you to do a lot more in refining the policies, a lot more in assuring the investors of consistency. They don't want any policy flips after another 2 or 3 months, the minister announced something from nowhere and everybody starts wondering what's going on. The consistency in policy, a clear message that whatever we have put in place now is going to stay, and we are not going to have something that happened even last year, where one minister of one agency announces something that is totally different from where another minister is doing. There's a stronger sense of coordination among all the ministries now, apart from that office of the coordinator in the presidency. There seems to be understanding now that all government agencies should be more careful and keeping our eyes on the ball when they are trying to tamper with policy.
Since Mr. Taiwo Idele was made Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, I know you've worked with him in, your capacity then as LCCI President, even private practice, I'm sure. What would you say? It seems like there should be a lot of work ahead of Mr. Taiwo Idele, considering where we find ourselves. We've talked about elevated inflations. We've talked about a bit of stability, yes, in that space. The handshake between the fiscal and the monetary side. What is expected moving forward as we even move into an election year?
I think the real issue, if you like, is the height of expectations on the shoulders of Mr. Idele. Everybody knows his antecedents, they know his capacity, and they expect him to be the worker to get things done very quickly. But we must always remember that the Minister of Finance is one minister out of 49 or 50 ministers that we have in this country. There's a limit to which a minister can change things. So what is certain is the new finance minister, Taiwo Idele, has a very deep understanding of the economy, very deep understanding of the economy. That was what he had done most of his last 30, 40 years, long before he became the chairman of the tax policy reform program. So he has a very deep understanding of the economy. He has been advisor to government before he became a minister. So you could say, quote unquote, he knows what to do. But whether he succeeds depends on the cooperation that he gets from other agencies. It could be taken for granted that he will work very closely with the central bank governor, because they have been in the same space, like you said. Some of us have been in the same space, we understand ourselves. But beyond the central bank governor and a couple of ministers, certainly the Minister of Trade, they are very much in the same space. They can easily read on the same page at any time. But convincing the Federal Executive Committee to move as fast as he wants Nigeria to move is perhaps where Minister Oyedele will struggle. That's the reality of what we have.
Well, indeed, great stuff. But let's wrap this up now. You know, I'd like you to tell us that. How do we practically or expect, as we expect Mr. Oyedele to, you know, change some things? Let's talk about transforming policy ideas now. How do we expect him to transfer policy ideas into tangible economic relief, particularly in the environment where we find ourselves, where expectations remain very high?
Well, generally, policy design without an execution content, it's just it's not real policy. So what Oyedele certainly is bringing to the table is his capacity to drive execution, and that's why, really and truly, he has a huge weight of expectation. He has the capacity to execute. He's done this for ages in the private sector. He has advised large, small businesses to execute policy. He can execute policy. He knows how to code policy into actionable programs. But getting the other agencies to work with him is going to be the real test for him. Getting other agencies to work at his pace, to work with the same level of understanding which he can share with them, and then being given the space. He's a minister now, but he's holding a political position. I mean, we have to understand that. He's not a technocrat holding a technical position. When he was chairman of the task committee, he was already exposed as a political position. You see struggles he had with various interest groups. Right now, as minister, that interaction and interface with the political stakeholders is going to be even more. But what we expect is that everyone will have goodwill to share with it, to say to Mr. Oyedele, okay, we are going to support you. We are going to work with you. These things you want to implement. If you want us to do all of this, maybe we can do 50% of what you are saying. Maybe we'll do 80% of what you are saying. That is the kind of things that you are going to be seeing. Stakeholders are going to be negotiating with the minister that, okay, we'll do some of this, but we can do everything.
Chief Executive Officer of UHY Professional Services, that's Mr. Gabriel Idahosa. Thank you so much for your time. Was the former president also of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Let's also mention that. Thank you for your time. Interesting conversations with you as always. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.